Welcome back to Front Porch Politics. I'm Tim Boyne. For our last story, we head to Burlington, and a story that's going to make your heart feel real good. It's a World War II veteran who is still working as a barista. But let me tell you, that is just the beginning of this incredible story.
You'll hear some history today.
Inside Burlington's Salvation Coffee Company.
You like coffee?
I do. Bob Sargent serves up decades of history and a cup of joe.
Oh, my joy!
At 99 years old, he's full of energy and full of smiles.
That's just for you. I touched it myself.
But hang around. You'll hear stories that make your heart sink.
That's scary to have to know somebody's going to try to kill you.
8 decades later, Sargent will soon take a trip to face those memories for the first time since it happened.
I made a request. I wanted him to look up and see if he can find that boy's grave. This is my work table.
It's the end of Bob Sargent's shift.
These are Rice Krispies.
Sarge, as he's known, cheerfully puts stickers on the treats at his daughter's coffee shop.
The San Francisco treat.
He's seated now, but that's a rare occasion.
I work first shift, 7 to 12, 6 days a week.
He doesn't rest after work either.
I'd rather work, do something.
You tend to think that way when you lived through the 1930s.
You know, I never knew it was a depression. I ate 3 meals a day, had warm clothes, house.
By now, you may have noticed the hat on Sarge's head.
Somebody always pays for my meals. I don't like that. I got my own money. I want to buy my own food. But my daughter said they want to thank you.
A thank you for his service in the Navy in World War II.
I was 17 when I enlisted.
Bob Sargent wanted to join the Marines, but he ended up in the Navy in the midst of World War II. What were the emotions like? I mean, you knew what was going on over there.
Scared to death.
He served on a minesweeper, clearing bays before invasions. 80 years later, the memories remain crystal clear.
And this big cruiser pulled right up, right between us and the shore. I think that was the most scared I was in my life, because he cut loose a broadside of them 10-inch guns.
Months after Normandy, Sargent was part of a Navy team at the Yalta Conference, where President Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin strategized a post-war world. Roosevelt wanted a naval honor guard, and Sargent was one of 6 picked.
He said this, men, 17, 18-year-olds, men, I don't know whether you know it or not, he said, but I was the Secretary of Navy before I became president. And the Navy is my favorite military organization. And then he said this, I really wanted to come down and spend the night on your ship with you guys, but they won't let me. He died 2 months later.
Well, I was inspired to start doing this because my father was never able to open up and talk to me about his experience.
Glennie Sims' father struggled to talk about World War II. He suddenly passed away, never sharing that story. But Glennie felt a calling and began making trips to Normandy for commemoration events.
So I went to those, and the last day I was there, I was walking along. I went to Omaha Beach in the cemetery, and so I was walking along Omaha Beach, and I see this guy with his World War II hat on, and you know, I saw my dad in him.
She soon realized there were veterans everywhere who never shared their stories and lived alone with the pain. It led to her nonprofit, Normandy Remembers.
But they would tell me these things that happened to them during the war, during the German occupation, during D-Day, and one thing led to another, and I have so many testimonies from these people. It became my purpose, I think. Other than my family, it became my purpose. And I realized that it was making a difference to these people who were able to speak.
Sims first heard about Bob Sargent at a France airport. Long story short, they planned to go to Normandy years ago, but COVID hit. Time is of the essence.
There's a huge urgency. I used to keep this list of phone numbers of people who wanted to talk to me and tell me their story. And I would check on them during COVID. I don't have any left. I don't have any people on my list left. They're all gone.
But Bob Sargent can go. They plan to make the trip to Normandy this June, exactly 80 years since the invasion. One can only imagine the emotions swirling in the mind of Bob Sargent.
I had a lot of friends that were killed in that war. And one of them that was killed real close to Normandy was in St. Lo. Was my neighbor, a young guy.
Unlike Lenny's dad, Bob Sargent seems at ease sharing his war stories. But this one story, the reason he's going back to Normandy, still impacts him 80 years later.
Chester Crane is the kid that got killed right close to running on Normandy. I have no desire to go other than visit his grave.
Bob Sargent turns 100 on Christmas Eve, the greatest generation, but don't tell Bob Sargent that.
I am not a hero. I'm a sailor. That's it. That's what I thought. I'm a sailor. No big deal. I'm just a sailor.